Well, Sony is back at it again, folks, with another Spider-Man character film without Peter Parker or Miles Morales, and I can tell people are pissed. Madam Web is the latest entry into this Spider-Verse franchise that Sony is trying to push out. It joins the likes of Morbius from a few years ago, and Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and I guess we're loosely tying in the Tom Holland movies into this universe. And eventually, we may get a good one of these films with Craven. Only time will tell when that film actually does release. We are going to be talking about S.J. Clarkson's film, Madam Web, starring Dakota Johnson. Forced to confront revelations about her past, paramedic Cassandra Webb forges a relationship with three young women destined for powerful futures, if they can all survive the deadly present. Now, joining Dakota Johnson in this cast is a crop of really young talent that has been seen throughout different films and TV shows. One of them in particular that I do know of is Sydney Sweeney here, but we also see Celeste O'Connor and Isabella Merced, and our big villain in this movie, his name is Ezekiel, played by Tahir Rahim. And the other big recognizable face you see other than Dakota Johnson's is really Adam Scott here. I think he was actually pretty well done in this movie. Alright, so we're going to dive into this Madam Web film, and I know there's a kind of, I don't know if a controversy is the right word, but I know there's a lot of conversation on social media about this movie, so I wanted to dive into this film and put my 2 cents into the ever-developing storyline that this movie is not good. And we're going to discuss that as well. First off, I'm really curious why this film was made in the first place. Even hearing the synopsis, it's kind of ridiculous. It sounds like a Terminator, quite frankly, and it actually plays out kind of like the first Terminator, where we have this one character named Ezekiel. He's having this dream because he feels like he's cursed. He's having this dream, and he sees these 3 spider ladies trying to attack him, so he's out to get them by any means necessary, but Madam Web swoops in and tries to save them as well. So it's kind of a weird, like, super Terminator light. It's really silly. And quite frankly, didn't know what I was expecting going in, because again, this is one of the Sony Spider-Man villain universe where they want to make a big universe film, but they are kind of tied with not having Spider-Man because he's on loan, big air quotes, on loan to Disney and that Marvel studio. So they're making Spider-Man characters films without Spider-Man. Madam Web joins the likes of Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage, 2 films I kind of really do enjoy with Tom Hardy. We had Morbius last year, Pino nominated for Most Underrated Movie of the Year. Not as bad as people said. It's not great, but it's still some fun to be had there. I actually think Morbius has some pretty good action sequences in here, where Madam Web action fight sequences are kind of weird and disjointed because it's doesn't play like a traditional superhero movie where we have this big epic conclusion where like there's a lot of fighting back and forth. It's a lot of premonition stuff and kind of it's kind of reminds me, actually, here's a good pull here, 2007's Next with Nicolas Cage, where he can see these different outcomes and he kind of goes with them, but she has more out-of-body experiences in this movie. So that's interesting for Madam Web here. So anyway, tying it into those Spider-Man villain movies, I think we may get a good one pretty soon because Aaron Taylor Johnson is doing that Craven the Hunter movie. Really excited to see that film going forward. So only time will tell if we actually get a good Spider-Man villain universe going at some point. But Madam Web feels like it's a big step back, and we're going to discuss that as well. But this movie is giving me a migraine a little bit to talk about, even though I did enjoy it. So take that with what you will. So I'm going to take this little shot here real quick and loosen the old brain cells. All right. So, with that said, make sure you guys leave your guys' thoughts and takes of Madam Web in the comments sections. Have a lively conversation down there. First off, let's talk about Dakota Johnson. I would never in a million years ever suspect that this girl from 50 Shades of Grey, The Social Network, and even How to Be Single, underrated movie, would be in a superhero movie. Very interesting to see her do this. So, of course, I've only seen the trailer like once or 2 times, honestly, too. So I really don't know anything about the Madam Web character from the Spider-Man comics. I didn't dive into that realm. But seeing Dakota Johnson in this role got me intrigued, and I think she actually does some good things with the character. I really kind of enjoyed the snarky back and forth that she did have with Adam Scott's character. Adam Scott is probably my favorite part of the movie here, but I did enjoy Dakota Johnson's banter with him. She has some really funny lines that I did laugh with. They are funny, but they are also cheesy as hell. It feels very like made for TV movie dialogue at times, because there is some really bad dialogue. This is really not a good screenplay here. And you're left kind of laughing more at the movie itself than being engaged with like the really heartfelt dialogue. Things with Dakota Johnson, like I said, she did have some quirky dialogue that I kind of enjoyed the banter of. Her as a superhero is interesting. I don't think she actually pull it off. And where the character actually ends up at the very final shots are really looking like they look terrible, quite frankly. And my wife had a funny comment. Kind of is like a Charles Xavier-esque ending up how she ends up, and I thought also kind of Doctor Strange. It was very odd, and that's as far as I feel comfortable without getting in too much of a kind of a spoiler. The other cast of characters are interesting. However, I feel like the marketing made me think that it was going to be like they're going to see 3 other superhero characters with superpowers and have characters fight in tights like they normally do at the final climax. No, there is glimpses of Sydney Sweeney, Isabel Merced, and Celeste O'Connor in their Spider-Women suits. However, it's only at the very beginning and at the very end. This is not like we're seeing any Spider-Man swinging webs here. It's strictly a Adam Webb movie with hints of gray, if you will. Hints of other Spider characters, which has kind of made me disappointed because I kind of wanted to see what they would able to do in these characters. These 3 young actresses are very talented. I wish they would have more to do with it. It's very weird to see Sydney Sweeney in this film because she's playing like a high school age kid here, and who eventually does become a superhero, but it's so weird because a couple months ago we just saw her being in a rom-com, or like a raunchy rom-com with our boy Hangman Glenn Powell. There's definitely a disconnect there. Like it's glaringly awkward. Like you just were doing these really awkward adult things over here, but you're a teenager over here in this other one. Maybe this one should have came out. Maybe this was delayed. Who knows? I don't think anybody was really wanting a Madam Web here. Also, our villain Ezekiel, played by Tahir Rahim, is, I don't know. The villain's not necessarily what we're really watching this movie for. He's very weak as one of you thought MCU villains were weak. This guy was a super weak villain here. Again, I don't know much of Madam Web's character, so I don't know if this character is somebody that shows up quite frequently in the comics or anything like that. But not a great turn or character here. And quite frankly, I think the best parts of this movie is the cheesy, like really like bad dialogue with some really fast edits. Like this editor was like doing like a million edits a minute. It seems like there was so many cuts and jump cuts. It's really hard to stay focused on it. But again, there was something entertaining about it because I wasn't bored watching it. I found some enjoyment at it. Yeah, maybe laughing at the movie that it's like one of these superhero movies that's so bad it's good. It could be in that range. Again, I was never bored by it. I'd rather watch this movie than Ant-Man Quantumania. Quite frankly, I would watch Madam Web again. So I don't think it's necessarily the worst like superhero movie ever made. I think it does. It's continuing the trend of that superhero movies are kind of on a downward slope, and there is not much good things happening from them ever since Endgame. I feel like that's when the big things is. After Endgame happened, we should have taken a step back, take a pause, at least on the MCU, but they trekked forward after like having a year off or something like that. But you get Sony with their pieces of the pie, and they want to make these Spider-Man villain movies, which he has an awesome backlog. Let's just plug him into a Spider-Man movie instead of having this, these characters kind of one and done forgotten characters, and we forget their movies, and then we'll never want to watch them again. And then we have guys like me coming on YouTube kind of bashing how it's bad at times. So I feel bad for these talented actors because I don't think we're going to see these characters actually get their due in a second film, which is kind of a bummer. And also it's funny to think about too how programmed we are, that we stay, if it says Marvel, we're programmed to stay throughout the credits. Thank goodness I was like, oh, I'm gonna hop on the old phone real quick to see if there's a post-credit sequence, and there wasn't. So thank goodness we just only stay through half the credits. Again, this is a weird movie. It's fun and it's entertaining. It may be underrated because how much people hate it. But it's definitely one of the weaker Spider-Man movies. It's up there with Morbius for me, or it's down there with Morbius rather. Dakota Johnson's very interesting until like the last like 5 minutes of the movie. Then it's like it's very weird, and it's like, was this a reshoot? What's going on here? This is very awkward. It seems completely out of place. But at the same time, didn't hate it. Had a really fun time with it. It's not my least favorite movie this year. Man, I really want 2024 movies to start getting better. Like, it's been a couple weeks since I've seen a good one that I've really enjoyed. But yeah, I just really want 2024 to start ship-shaping. So hopefully in a couple weeks we'll get some good movies here. But that's my quick thoughts on Madam Web. An entertaining watch. Maybe wait till it hits streaming. I'm glad I have Regal Unlimited, so I can go there and not feel guilty for spending money on a movie ticket. The soda was really good. And yeah, Twizzlers was always a good plus for food at the theater. The thing about this movie is Regal's released a popcorn bucket for this one. Man, I'm glad I didn't spend my money on that. Anyway, that's my quick thoughts, takes, and opinions on Madam Web. My name is Adam of the Almost Sideways Movie Podcast. Thank you guys so much for chit-chatting with me on Madam Web. Make sure you guys leave you guys' thoughts, takes, and opinions down in the comment section. And if you liked this review, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube and join the conversation. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video.